Hi, my name is Shayne Larango, and I am with,
Luz Pinilla.
and we are here today to talk about our friendship and the 1 year anniversary of an exciting trip that we took to Colombia, to Cartagena.
Mhm.
Did I say it right?
And Minca, Cartagena and Minca.
Cartagena and Minca, yes. So here we go. So Luz came up with a questionnaire to kind of talk to us about like different things. And the first question was, you're going to have to read these because I took off my glasses. My cousin's calling. Who were you before going on the trip?
Mm-hmm. So you go first.
You want me to go first? Well, I wrote my answers out, and what I had said was, and basically to keep it short and sweet, I was a person who usually saved their airline miles for in case of emergency. And so one other time I had used airline miles for a vacation trip or, a getaway trip, but that was actually an emergency. Like I needed a break so badly to get away. And so this was like the first time I was like, I may die tomorrow. I'm going to use these airline miles and go somewhere fabulous with my friend.
All right. And who was I before the trip? Right before the trip, I had been very exhausted because I went through 3 years of graduate school to get my master's in creative writing. So right before the trip, I was relieved that it was all over finally, and also like not believing that it was really finally over. And I was also a very cautious person, so always like taking very calculated risks. So when Shayne invited me to go on a trip to celebrate this accomplishment of mine, I was thinking more like we were in Dallas. I was thinking more along the lines of maybe San Antonio. And then Shayne made us go a little bit further or encouraged me to take a bigger risk.
That's right, because I forgot too. I was like, we should use our passports, like when we were trying to figure out the destination. So, yeah.
And I couldn't tell if she was joking, but I always have my passport ready just in case.
That's right, because I was saying, hey, let's dream. And I said something about that, and you were like, what? And I said, you're like, we don't have enough time to fly internationally. And I was like, or you never know, or like we were doing something. And I was like, yeah, keep dreaming, keep be big when you dream, because you can always pare that down. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were looking at just trips, like just an international trip, not necessarily Colombia. We only had a week to do it because I was teaching. I was in between a regular school year and summer school, so I only had a week. And we had been brainstorming different places, and I remember that I was online and on this website where you can look at tickets for anywhere and see how cheap they were. And I saw that they had a trip to Colombia for like $300 or $400. So that's when I was like, I wonder. And then when I suggested it to you.
Yeah. And then like, I can't remember what the airline miles were, but it was so doable. And then you honestly like didn't even have a whole week. We only had 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 2 days for traveling and then 3 days there. Yeah.
And it's not that far, but you had to lay over in Miami. There was no way to go direct. So that added a little bit. Like we could have done maybe something more direct. But anyway, but then Colombia had it grew with why we went there and everything too. That became the right place for us. Like there was more signs or more details. So this asks, the next question of us is, how did I meet you? So, and it's like, I hope I get this right. But we met at Frank and Steven's party, right? Okay, good. And Frank and Steven are like, well, I've known Frank, around Frank, since we were children. Like we had kind of tangential childhoods in East Texas together. And then his his uncle or his great uncle actually drove my school bus when I was in kindergarten. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. And when I was a hospital volunteer in high school, it was his aunt who was my supervisor.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think Frank and I actually like formally met. We figured out we'd probably played together as kids at some point in time, just with groups and stuff.
Yeah.
But we met when we were 18, I guess, and in community college in East Texas.
Oh.
And then I met Steven soon after Frank did. And then I met you. Well, I'll let you tell your story about your relationship to them. But
well, I met Frank at when I got my first master's, which was in aesthetic studies.
mm-hmm.
And it was in a translation. It was in a translation course, so that's how I met him. But the way I met you, it was at their party. But what I remember about it wasn't just a regular party. It was a firefly backyard gathering.
Mm.
We were there to celebrate the fireflies, and that's what I remember about you. Like, if it wasn't for the fireflies, I wouldn't have a Shayne.
Oh, see, and fireflies are just magical to me. But I do remember that party, because I'll tell you another reason that I remember that party is there's a guy that they have invited to that party or their parties over the years. And I know that when I really am interested in somebody is when I get all tongue-tied around them. And yet I've never had a normal conversation with this man because I'm just like, like so goofy, so goofy. So you have to answer a couple. Okay, I answered the first two first. You have to answer, what are you like in public when you're with Shayne?
Okay, well, this right now is kind of like, it's feeling like it's in public. So in public, Shayne is like that, like a firefly, but bigger, like a big energy of just fire and joy. And in public, I am a lot more subdued. So I was laughing when we turned on the cameras because Shayne is very bright and her head is all the way in there. And then I'm like in the shadows and I'm wearing dark colors and it's, dark. And I don't have a dark personality, but when I'm with Shayne, like I like to be in her shadow.
See, that's so funny because I don't think that you're in my shadow when we're together. I will tell you, like, to me, when we're in public, it's always an adventure. Like, it's like, we never know where we're going to end up. We never know what we're going to do. And like, even the one time that in my mind, like there are always these epic things. And you were like, we could just go out on a Sunday afternoon. And I was like, yeah. Okay. Even that day that we went out on a Sunday afternoon was epic. Like it was just like we run across art or we'll meet people or we'll get wrapped up in something or whatever. And I will say too, like, I almost feel as if when we go out together, wherever we arrive, it's as if people have been waiting for us to get there.
Yeah.
And I feel so invincible when I'm with you. Like,
aww.
Yeah, it's really
okay. For my perspective, I'm always with you when we're together. So I don't know what you're like when you're not with me. Because if you're there and I'm there, then we're there together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like I think of you like that. Everywhere you go, it's an adventure and people are waiting for you. And I feel like that's just how you are. And I just happen to be around when I'm around.
No, I don't think, like, I will say that does happen to me, but it's 100% though when I'm with you. Like it may or may not happen when I'm by myself, but it's like almost like together we just make that magic happen.
It's a good energy together. I think we're very like yin yang. We very much balance each other. I see it as you're the wild and I'm the calm when we're in public. Yeah. And the next question is in private. And in private, I don't know. It's still a balance, but sometimes that switches. I feel like when we're in private and we're having we have really deep conversations, and sometimes I'm the one that's like, okay, but let's look at the bright side, or like just something like fun, and then you're a little bit darker and more subdued.
Yeah, private. Because in public, I will say, and this is just, it's not who I want to be, but it's kind of, I think, how I was sculpted in a way, and I try to, that's probably why I don't always do this when I'm in public, but I felt like I always had to be on, right? I had like almost like had to push through things to make sure that everybody thought everything was okay, because things weren't always okay. And so I do like have that habit of just switching into that gear when I go out in public. But when we're in private and it's just us, and we can talk, like, you're settled in. I thought, because I even talked about when we like get really settled in on either side of the couch with something to drink, and we like dig really deep in these conversations and stuff, that I get to be more open and vulnerable and real, although the other side of me is just as real. But it's also something that I would never take out in public, because it is deeper, it is more intense. I mean, as intense as I am now. Yeah. So I'm trying to think, what else did I put? Oh, and I just talked about how much you shared with me, like, because you're always sharing like your art techniques, or you're a consummate teacher. And so like, you're always teaching me something. And, I'm flitting around with a new topic, and I want to learn to draw faces. And you sit there and, like say, hey, this is how we do it in class. And you show me, and do this and do this and think about this. And
that makes me sound really bossy.
if that's not my intention. Like,
I know it, because I remember asking if you wanted tips, and you were so receptive to that. So you're very receptive to that.
Yeah. And because often I think people treat information and knowledge as commodities, and like, oh, I know how to draw, so I have that and you don't, kind of thing. And if you want it, it's going to cost you, or whatever. And always you were just so willing to share everything that and every technique and everything that you have to offer. You're just so willing to share. So
thank you.
I think that's amazing. You're not bossy. Yeah, I'm a learner.
Try not to be bossy.
I want to learn everything. So you telling me everything just makes it double the fun.
That makes me think of you in the kitchen, because that's how you are in the kitchen. You're always sharing all your creations and all your food creations, and I'm always eating them.
Yeah. Well, well, and that was funny too, because I ended up calling like when this everybody was starting to like shelter in place or whatever, and people were like, are we going to run out of food, or what's going to happen? And like, she had bought beans, and she was like, I don't even know how to cook beans. And I was like, well, you call me. And so I ended up telling her, and I had gone through like a couple of years of learning how to cook beans where I would eat them, because I'm not a fan of beans, unless now I am, because the way I cook them. And so I shared that with her, and she goes, where did you learn that? I said, about 2.5 years of trial and error. And she was like, but I was so glad that was helpful to somebody. And she did. She called and said, those were so good. Like, I'm thank you. And I'm like,
oh, that's good. I'm glad that worked out.
I like to share too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Why did you decide to go on this trip with Luz?
We talked about that.
Yeah. But for me, it was to celebrate you, and that you had done this MFA in creative writing, and just who you are. Oh, and plus, part of why we decided to go to Colombia is because you're doing that. You're a single mom. You're a full-time classroom teacher. And you showed up at my house on Tuesday nights and taught us Spanish for almost a year.
That's right. We were celebrating that.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah. So that was part of our criteria, like to use our passports to go somewhere where
you can practice your language.
Spanish was the primarily spoken language. Yeah. Somewhere we had never been before. I think we put that one in there too. Because you'd never been to that area of Colombia. Yeah. So, although you'd been, and I had never been to South America before. That's my first trip to South America.
And that made it more exciting for me. That made it really exciting for me.
And also on that trip, I reached one of my lifetime goals is to go on an international trip with only a carry-on suitcase.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Although I had to use some of your suitcase coming back. I'm not good at that, but I try. I got there with a carry-on. So one carry-on.
You know, the whole Spanish thing was awesome too, because yeah, I do remember that. And you were my best student.
Of course I
You
was.
were the best one. You were the most enthusiastic, and you had, you know, there's a lot to be said for a student with enthusiasm, because you know everybody's picking up something new. Especially a language as an adult, it's really hard to pick up. But you made it always very playful, and you were the one who requested that I go and help you guys with your Spanish, but you especially.
Yeah, because in my first idea was like I would get all, like in my head I thought that would be a lot to ask for somebody, so I was going to try to get all my Spanish speaking people to come once a month or you know whatever. And when you were the first person I asked, and you're like, I'll just do it all, and I was like, whoa, yeah, okay. And I think that one, it helped, and then finding out that Colombian Spanish was the pristine most.
I mean, okay. So most Colombians will tell you, I'm not a typical Colombian, so I don't brag about our Spanish, but a lot of Colombians who are from Colombia will tell you that Colombia is one of the top Spanishes in the world, next to Spain and whatever. It's a little bit of a pride thing.
Yeah. Well, and that comes from other sources too, because there were people Jim mentioned that too, in our class.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. So, and I will tell you, like, one of the things that I really loved when I took Spanish in college was that my last teacher that I had for like Spanish 3 and 4 taught us how to hold our mouths and where to put our tongues to pronunciation.
That's good.
It was so good. It was so good. I can actually speak Spanish without a Texas accent.
You have a great accent. You have a great accent in Spanish. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So you continued that emphasis on pronunciation for me, I think. So, and I will tell you, my favorite class was when nobody showed up except for me and you. And you told me the story of Cinderella, right?
I will tell you the story of Cinderella.
Yeah.
And you had to figure it out. You had to figure out what I was talking about.
Yeah. And every once in a while I'd go, wait. Because, but I was keeping up with you, and that made me so happy. Yeah. Speaking it is, and I have a long way to go, but listening and understanding, I got so much closer with you.
Yeah. And then I was really excited about it being Colombia, it being your first time, and you were so excited about going there because of the Spanish and because of the history. And then for me, like, Colombia was, that's where my family's from. My whole entire family is from Colombia, even though I was born here, but I hadn't been back in over 20 years. So to me, this trip, and there's, you know, for personal reasons, I hadn't been back in such a long time. And so going with you, I remember thinking, okay, I'm not going to visit family. I know that sounds rude, but I had my own reasons. I'm not going for those kinds of reasons. I'm going as a tourist, and I'm going with you. So you were like my buffer into that world again. And I was going from a completely different perspective. So for me, it was a return to something, but it was also new.
Yeah. And that was actually the next question about why we chose that destination. So I think we answered that in both the things. But yeah, and I did write on my thing when I filled it out. It's like, Luz had her own personal reasons. I had mine. Mine were just like, go somewhere fun that I'd never been before. And yeah, it was a bonus that it was international. It was a bonus that it was South America, that I had never been to South America before. So
yeah, it just for every single reason, that trip was just perfect for us.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I don't know if I mentioned, but just in case I didn't, we're actually in the anniversary of the trip. So today is the day that we would have been in Minka, and we'll get to that later. But yesterday was the day we got to Cartagena a year ago. So what were your expectations for the trip? What was the one thing you wanted to do or see?
I know what you wanted to do.
That's why I was like, mine's evident, but well, you answer first.
Well, my expectations were more personal. I knew that it was going to be hard for me emotionally. I thought it was going to be hard for me emotionally. Part of it, like I said, I always take these calculated risks, and part of it is before any trip anywhere. I could be going to the store really, but especially on longer trips, and if I'm on a plane, I always think, what if I die? But it's not like I know that sounds really pessimistic, but it's more like, okay, if I die, I've lived a great life, and I've made so many friends, and I've had so many adventures, and it's that kind of thinking. But I always think this could be my last day, this could be my last whatever. And so I do know that when I went to Colombia, it was just the two of us. So I was leaving my daughters, which as a single mom, that was hard for me to leave them for a week, emotionally hard. And then the day I came back, they were going with their dad to Colorado for a week. So I knew I was going to be away from them for 2 weeks. And so before we left, I had mixed emotions. I was super excited about the trip, but I was so sad that I wasn't going to get to see him for 2 weeks. And what if something happened, and all these what ifs. So part of my expectation for the trip was just to be able to detach from that and to have a good time. That was a goal, a conscious goal that I knew I was very aware of. And I guess just connecting back to my roots, finding a way to connect back to the land and the people and the language and the culture and the food and everything, just connecting back with that.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like when I go to a place, I don't think I do have a lot of expectations, because especially if I've never been there before,
Yeah.
I'm just like, what was this place going to have to offer me? But I will say that I have Colombia has been in my awareness since I watched Romancing the Stone. And so, one thing I wanted to do was to find one of those street dances where everybody's out hanging out and having dinner and with their families, and the music is playing and the lights are strung up in the square, and everybody's just having a good time with the whole community kind of thing. And I grew up with going to when we were in South Texas, going to the dance halls and stuff, and those were family events, like it was not like a dance hall or like a club. It was it was more like a community gathering. So that was the one thing I really wanted to do, and I can't even remember if I wanted to do anything else.
I think there may have been something. I just remember that was like something I wanted to make sure that you experienced, because that was the one thing. And I told you, every time I go on a trip with somebody, we always have the one thing we want to do. Do you remember something else?
We do that. Well, because what I wrote down. Sure. Yeah, but the one thing we do that too is like when we're going on a trip and there's multiple people, everybody gets their top pick of what we do, and then we fill in the gap with what else we can. We do that too. But remember, I asked you if cocaine was legal in Colombia, and you were like, no. And then it just like dawns on me. It's like, well, if this is like the country's like export, and the country doesn't even let it be legal, like who's really exporting the cocaine? It's like it's not Colombia's fault. I mean, they may be
Colombia's fault.
It's not Colombia's fault. It's like so yeah. And so anyway, but I was really surprised that it's like not legal. But anyway, I don't know. I was gonna drink Colombian coffee and Colombian hot chocolate, and might as well try Colombian cocaine while you're there. But
everything, yeah.
But we did not.
And you also wanted to go to a beach, like a secluded beach. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I say that. I have to talk about that later, about my impressions of the beach we went to, because I will expound on that.
But beforehand, you wanted to, because I remember we thought, okay, we only have 3 days there. We only have 3 days there from start to finish. So we wanted to spend 1 day in the city of Cartagena, which is a colonial town, very touristy, very it caters to international tourists. And then we wanted to spend one day or some time at the beach. And we really wanted to go to a mountain village or somewhere deeper into the mainland of Colombia.
Right. And we did all of that in that whirlwind trip. But yeah, that cocaine was the only other thing that I asked you about.
You didn't get to do.
Well, I didn't know I was gonna. If I just wanted to know. I mean, I do remember going, "Is cocaine legal in Colombia?" And you were like, "No, no, and no." And I was like, "Okay,
Like your mom, honestly.
okay." So, so what were your fears about the trip? And I'm going to start because you have much bigger fears than I do.
Okay.
So if I can't follow yours,
Yeah.
but my fears were that I had the right outfits and I had the right shoes. That honestly, that's usually my biggest fear when I travel is, did I pack appropriately?
That's right. You got a whole new wardrobe for Colombia.
I did, and I didn't come home with most of it. But that's another story. Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
don't
my
know.
biggest fears. Oh, huh?
I have travel anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know where it's from. Like, it doesn't have a specific source.
Okay.
It's just about like, oh, we're going to go on this trip. Am I going to pack everything I need? Am I going to remember everything? Am I going to get to the airport in time? Am I going to have read my itinerary properly? Like that kind of fear, but it's not anything real.
Huh. And I'm kind of the opposite because I don't worry about, I mean, I'm going to be on time. I make sure that I'm on time. What I make several lists and I'm checking them. And if for some reason I forget something, you can usually buy it somewhere. So I don't really worry about that. Forgetting something or packing the wrong thing. I don't really worry so much about that. My fear, especially in going to Colombia, because I have memories of Colombia. I've been to Colombia many times and I also have family there. So I hear about stuff and you still kind of, you got to be cautious and you have to be on your toes. We're going to an area that has a lot of tourism, but along with tourism comes money. So people are willing to, or more likely to take advantage or to try to take advantage. And that's true anywhere. But I mean, I didn't want my country to do that to Shayne. Because you're going.
Let me tell you what some other countries have done
It's
to
like
me.
I'm taking you home to meet my family. Like I don't want my family to do something mean to you. You know what I mean? Like I'm introducing you to my world here, my ancestors and my people. And I didn't
Dear
want.
Lord, what has my country done to people?
Yeah, but yours is also my country, so that's okay. But this just
Yes,
felt.
that is your country. I'm just saying, like, yeah. I'm just saying, especially in the time we're recording this in 2020.
And imagine if I'm bringing a friend to America, like I'm going to want to protect them, and I'm going to be worried that something's going to happen. So I wanted to make sure, or one of my fears was that we would get pickpocketed or bamboozled with something, where they, just trick you out of your money, or I don't know, or something worse, potentially worse, And of course, death is always, kind of a fear, a concern.
Yeah.
Concern.
I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued about being bamboozled. Like, I'm not putting that out there, but I'm just saying. Never once did I ever fear being bamboozled, and now I can't be afraid of that. Well, and I was thinking too about your fears of leaving your daughters and that kind of thing, and something happening to you on the trip, which.
But I had to let go. I mean, I had to that is a fear that I consciously just. I'm putting them in the hands of the universe because there's nothing I can do. And I knew they're going to have a good time. They have the house to themselves. So they were going to, we had every day planned. They had a little activity every day. Their dad was nearby. So in case something happened, he was aware. But I just had to let go of that because I knew if I'm worrying about them the whole time, I'm not going to be able to enjoy myself. But as soon as that plane landed, oh my gosh, I'm not going to say I forgot about them. I didn't forget about them. But I did. I mean, I knew I was going to be okay and they were going to be okay.
So that's the next question is, what is your first impressions of Colombia as the plane landed and on your way to lodging? Well, do you remember that what we were looking out the airplane windows and it had to have been a pod of whales?
Uh-huh.
Is that what that was?
I don't know what it was. When we came back, I Googled it and they said that whales the pods of whales aren't that big. And I don't know what other animal it could have been, but I didn't find any pictures or any videos of what we saw through the window. And because we saw several, or at least twice that you showed me.
Yeah, and it was thousands. Would you say that? Yeah. Thousands of what we were seeing?
At least hundreds.
See, I'm going to go with thousands and y'all believe me.
It may have been 1,500. I don't know.
I was sitting by the window, so I saw more than Luz could see. I had the window.
And they definitely looked like creatures going up and down. Later, we even took a little video of it. It wasn't very clear. but just in thinking about, how you start questioning, like maybe you see a UFO, but it might have been just a cloud. You start thinking about it. So then I thought, well, maybe it was just the crests of the waves and the way we saw them, or maybe it was just, I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been, but it was whatever it was very fascinating. I was glued to it and trying to figure out what it was, and it was just so intriguing, and it made it mysterious or magical or whatever just on the way coming in. And so I do remember like the airport being way smaller than I thought it would be. I don't know, like it was a relatively small airport.
Yeah.
And we got off the plane on the tarmac and kind of walked down the stairs and got into the shuttle bus and came to the airport. And then I remember seeing the just poverty living areas. I don't know what they're called there. But just that kind of affected me because we'd spent the night. We'd had a short enough layover not to get a hotel in Miami, but it was long enough to be exhausting kind of thing. And so I just was tired. It was so hot and humid in a way that I had never felt before. And then seeing that, so I was kind of like overwhelmed with that kind of thing coming in, which was kind of in juxtaposition of seeing the magical creatures that I thought was out in the water. So
right. Yeah. And for me, that experience, seeing that, like the slums around, I was not aware of that. When I think of Cartagena, I think only of the colonial buildings, the history of it, and then I think of money because it's known for, tourism. That's all it's known for, and beautiful, architecture and a lot of culture and stuff. But I was not expecting to see the level of poverty that we saw. Of course, I know it exists in Colombia. It was right in your face, and it was like a ring around Cartagena, which I wasn't expecting that really. Yeah. It's heartbreaking, especially us coming from America. Knowing that we're going into the center of that, and we're kind of like ignoring all the stuff that's in the background.
Yeah. Well, we didn't ignore it, but I mean, because
we acknowledged it. We acknowledged it.
Like,
but once we're in, it's not like we went out and did anything or.
No, because we came on vacation. So yeah, it's interesting. So what were your experiences on that first day in Cartagena? What are your emotions throughout the day?
I was still, like, mentally, I was still in America. It was almost like we were taking a virtual trip somewhere, and I was maybe wearing like a VR thing or something because it didn't feel like we were there. The flight was so short. I mean, it was like 3 hours from Miami to Colombia. That's what I felt like.
Yeah.
And it just, my brain had not registered yet that we were, I mean, I knew we were in Colombia, obviously, but it didn't feel like it. So physically, I was still in America. And that first day. So it was surreal to sit, because I had also gone into I always like to do this whenever I'm going to a new city and I know where we're going to stay. I go to Google Maps and I kind of walk around. So I kind of know a little bit of what's around there.
Okay.
Just kind of familiarize me with that intersection or how to get to, it didn't help because it still got lost, but at least it gave me a little idea of what I would expect. And so, it was just surreal to actually be, maybe that's what it felt like. It felt like I was in the Google map.
Walking in the Google map.
There in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, once we got in and got settled and like then went back out again, I was kind of rejuvenated or whatever. Yeah. But I just do remember just how beautiful the architecture was. And then like everybody that we did meet was so nice, and their English was better than mine. And but that's also the day that we went to the old fort and went to see the old like jail kind of thing that they had shops and stuff in, and watched the sunset. And there was a string trio playing on one of the walls. But the best thing that happened that day was I had my first coconut water, and that guy took that chilled coconut, and chopped it with that long knife and gave me this straw. And it was the freshest, most delicious, amazing taste ever. That's the freshest thing I have ever drank.
Wow.
it's still like fresh coconut water is where it's at.
Direct
Like
from the coconut, yeah.
from the coconut, yeah. And that experience was awesome.
Also, I think for me, I think it helped that because I don't know how you were feeling, but I think both of us were a little apprehensive because we were in another country. We don't really like. I'm a stranger there too at that point, and we didn't really know which way to go to go sightsee. We were just kind of exploring. So we left all our stuff at the place where we were staying, and then we start walking in the direction that we think might lead us to somewhere. Remember?
Yeah.
We were going somewhere. There was something. We were going to ask about the bus that was going to take us to Minca the next day. So that's where our destination was. And there,
yeah, I remember getting to that place. Mm-hmm.
We just kept going, and we went through a neighborhood that wasn't necessarily. It didn't look like touristy, and it looked a little bit more, a little dangerous, a little questionable for us, like not knowing what to expect or if we were going in the right direction. So, but we kept going, and I like that because I don't like to go back.
Yeah. Well, and this is my I don't know. This is my travel tip is just act like you belong. Like, just like don't act like you own the place. Just act like you belong to the place, even though you don't fit in at all.
It's true.
Just like, this is my hood. This is where I live. This is where I hang out all the time.
Definitely
walking me here before. I'm here all the time. That's kind of what I embody when I go get off my route accidentally and wind up somewhere that I'm.
No, but it helps. That helps.
Yep.
Yeah. And we were definitely moving kind of away from the center of where we were at. But because it's such a small place, we ended up back on the coast again, or back on that line. So by the time we got to where the coconuts were, we were already seeing, okay, there's the ocean, there's the building. We're going back in the right direction. And I think part of that relief, and it was really hot and we were tired of walking. So I think that just really.
And of course, the shoes that I brought were not appropriate.
But they were cute, I'm sure.
They were adorable. They were adorable. Okay. So we're also that night was the night that we went to have dinner at that kind of fancy restaurant. I remember I was like, okay, I want to have dinner on a balcony. We haven't found a dance. So we walked around trying to find a dance or something.
Did we have, I don't remember dinner.
Yeah. So then I said, well,
it was inside. It wasn't on the balcony. We had dinner inside a restaurant. We had drinks on the balcony because after we went walking around, we went and had drinks.
Oh, that's right. We did have dinner at that one place.
Yeah.
And dinner then we came out for drinks.
Yeah, it was this long, like, it looked like shaped like a bar.
Yes. And
there were some Americans next to us.
Yes, or somewhere. But remember we went there because we were walking by and I heard live music. I was like, well, if we can't have dancing, we're going to go have drinks on the balcony with the live music. And then like 3 songs after we got there, he packed it up and I was like,
that's right.
Giving him money to play all night.
And I had been disappointed in the first restaurant we went to because number one, it was expensive. I wanted that's another one of the goals that I was going. Like I remember these things, they're called buñuelos, are like big, they're like cheese balls. They're so delicious. They're like pastries, cheese puffs, you guys call them, I think, but they're big. I really wanted those. I really wanted the tamales, which we had. Well, I didn't realize not all of Colombia has the same cuisine. Like that was just an oversight. And so they didn't have buñuelos anywhere, and they didn't have the tamales that I wanted, but they had empanadas, which is another thing I was looking forward to. So that restaurant, I ordered empanadas, and they just they didn't taste authentic. Here we are in Colombia, but because it was a touristy place and not a real authentic, corner or something, they didn't really taste the way I wanted to. So I was a little disappointed in that. But then we went to that restaurant that you saw, and it was by a square. That would have been the ideal place for dancing, honestly.
Yeah. And we had fabulous drinks. I mean, whatever.
Oh my gosh, the
cocktails, like I can't remember what the cocktail was that they made me, but it was some fruit that I'd never heard of before.
Me neither. I hadn't heard of it either. Yeah.
It was in Colombia, and it was just divine. And then we had also aguardiente. Say it again.
Aguardiente.
Aguardiente.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And we had shots of that because that's what the national drink of Colombia or whatever, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a piña colada, and that was the absolute, by far, the best piña colada I've ever had in my life. It was insane.
Yeah.
So good.
Because the fresh fruit and everything
So
was like so wonderful.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. So what are your thoughts as you traveled to Santa Marta on the second day?
So I'll backtrack to say that the reason we went to Santa Marta, the reason I even heard, I mean, I knew about Santa Marta. I didn't know how close it was or anything, but at my graduation, which had been like the week before, I met a girl from Colombia, and I told her we were going to go to Colombia in the following week. And she asked me where, and I said, Cartagena. And she said, oh, are you going to go to Santa Marta too? And I was like, well, I hadn't thought about it. She's like, oh, you have to go. It's not even that far. You have to go. So we looked into it, and of course, there's a beach there. And then it had the road to Minca from there. So I thought, well, this is perfect. It was like a 4-hour bus ride, I want to say.
Yeah, maybe I don't remember.
I know that it was shorter going to Santa Marta than coming back to Cartagena. But,
well, that was a different reason.
Yeah, it was a different experience. But going there, I remember that before the bus left, we saw the beach, and I wanted to make sure, like, okay, this is seize the moment type of thing, where I saw the beach. It's right there, and the bus wasn't scheduled to leave for like 30 minutes. Remember?
Yeah.
It was parked there. And I don't know why you didn't come with me, because it sounds like something you would do. But I said, let's go to that beach.
Did I not go with you?
You didn't go with me.
What was wrong with me?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's probably, was it early in the morning? I don't wake up until I may be standing there with my eyes open, but I don't wake up.
I was like, should I go? Should we go? And we weren't sure if the bus was going to leave early or what. I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going to take this opportunity. So I went, and it was the highway was there. So I had to walk across the highway. I just dipped my feet in there for a little bit. I recorded a little bit, took some pictures, and then came back. But it was nice, because it was, at least if nothing else, at least I got to dip my feet in the ocean.
Well, I'm sorry I was a fuddy-duddy and did not go across the street. I feel bad now, because that's not my MO, but I might not have had my
I'm sure you had a good reason. Yeah,
I don't even remember. So and I remember like being on the bus and just being mesmerized with the landscape. But like you had started talking to people, and most of the people on the bus did speak Spanish, although like in Cartagena, like everybody was speaking English. And so I felt kind of like removed or isolated a little bit. And you had engaged in conversation, the lengthier conversation, with the woman who was traveling to see her children and grandkids. And she was talking about the national park that's nearby and all that kind of thing. And so I just remember sitting on the bus, watching the landscape and listening to Spanish all around me. And that was just, I was kind of cocooned in that. So
that was nice. And for me, like that was a very special trip for me, that voyage from Cartagena to Santa Marta, because it was that too. It was the landscape, although it wasn't exactly the landscape of my childhood, but I knew it was Colombia, and I saw the mountains to one side, the ocean on the other side. But I remember there was one particular stretch of highway where I don't know if the window was kind of cracked open or something, but I heard the cicadas. I heard them screeching, and I was like, oh my God, this is so perfect. It's just so perfect. And every time we passed by a certain type of landscape or whatever, I could hear them. So it was like they were calling out to me, because the whole thing about the creative writing was because of the memoir, and my memoir has a lot to do with, a lot of it has to do with Colombia and the cicadas and stuff. So that was, it got me like, I finally felt like I was there. I think when I heard that, I finally felt okay that I was there.
Is that still the opening scene?
The cicadas?
Of being on the bus and the cicada.
Yeah, being on the bus. There's no cicadas, but it's on a bus. It's meeting something on a bus.
Yeah, cicada song. But so being on the bus. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my typical MO is whoever's sitting around me, and we're gonna have a conversation. Like I don't even start it, but I'll smile at somebody, or I'll say, I don't know, I don't really start a conversation, but I might make a comment. And that lady was very responsive, and we had a long conversation. So it's great.
And was it her, or was it the older man that you ended up talking to, that had been married for
On the way back. Oh yeah, forever.
Is
Yeah.
that the one on the way back for
On the way
70 something years? Like, how are you that old? Like, you've been
back.
married forever.
Yeah. You remember those stories better than I do.
I know, because I got you to tell them to me because I
And I
said,
wrote them
well,
down. I wrote them down. I think once I write them down, I don't really think about them because I know they're safe there.
yeah.
I don't think
Well,
about them.
yeah. There was an American on the way back, so I ended up talking to him, but
That was your boyfriend, yeah. We'll get to boyfriends later.
we'll get to work. Anyway. So, but all we did is get to Santa Marta and then catch taxi cab to Minka.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question is, what were your thoughts as you traveled from Santa Marta to Minka?
Mm-hmm. What were yours?
Hmm?
What were yours?
Well, mine go first.
Yes.
So, I was like, why do I want to read this one? Because this is why I said I have to start off by saying that I love the synchronicity of this question being the number 13, which is symbolic of the divine feminine. I loved that the bus driver helped us find a good taxi driver to the mountains. He was very nice and a good driver, and I loved that we were going to a city that had only been safe for tourists for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
The excitement and the joy in the people could still be felt. Because remember, Minka had been kind of a dangerous place to be till about 10 years ago, they said.
Yeah, we still had guerrilleros in there and drug people. And, yeah, it was a trafficking location.
It's always exciting to me. I tried to
it was always, the whole time we were there, it's in the back of my mind, like, but where are they? Like, they didn't leave. It's just not dangerous anymore, but where are they?
They were probably running our hotel.
Exactly.
Serving us food. They're like,
it's not mean anymore.
That's because, I mean, like, people are just trying to make a living, right? And they're trying to
exactly
do whatever they need to do to survive at this time. And so if,
thankfully now Minka is a tourist spot. Like, that's a good thing for their whole economy, instead of other means to profit. And that place, Minka, or around there, is also the entrance to the it's a trail to the lost city of gold or something like that. That's but it takes a while to get there. You have to have permission from the local indigenous people, and you have to have a guide and all this, and it takes several days to get there. But yeah, so where we went was like the entrance to that.
Okay, Luz, I want to go back and do that.
We should. I have thought about that. I definitely want to go back and do that.
But I have to drive with the moto taxi. Like, I'm not walking 2 days.
I don't know if they'll let you do that. I don't know about that. Maybe you can ride a horse or something.
Okay, I'll ride a horse or something.
Yeah.
So, what were your impressions going to Minka?
Going up to Minka, that reminded me more of where my family's from, because my family's from the mountains. And so, and the weather got cooler, because remember, it was so sticky hot in Cartagena. Santa Marta was hot too, but once we started rising a little bit, it got a little cooler. And it's more of a mountain type of, area. What?
It was like, get it? I was like,
comparatively.
Really?
And then of course people had said, oh, Minka is so much cooler. And you're right, it was maybe 15 degrees cooler, but you could feel the difference. And it wasn't like cool until it rained. Because it rained when we were up there.
It did. Yes, it did. As we were coming down that side.
But it started raining before we even left. So that was on us. It started raining. Okay, we checked into our little place, which is we got it through Airbnb, but it was like a little hotel, one little room that we stayed at. I don't remember the name of it, but the owner was a Spaniard. They were really nice. And so we went in there, no air conditioning. I don't think there was air conditioning. There was a fan.
There was a ceiling fan. That's right, in the room. Yeah, there was.
And then we left our things there, and we were hungry, and you wanted soup, or did we just see the soup?
Well, that was at the food truck. Yeah. That was and we were just like, it smelled so good, and we went in there, and that soup was my favorite meal in Colombia. It was so good. So good.
And that was what I was looking for when we were walking around in Cartagena. I was looking for a place like that was real, that was local, and that was, just authentic. And that place was nothing but authentic. that little place where we went.
Yeah, because all the locals were eating there. That's where I want to go eat too when I'm in a place. Is I want to eat where the neighborhood people eat. Yeah.
And when we were there, it started sprinkling, started raining a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. And from there, what did we ask about the motor taxis, or were we just asking about the waterfall?
Yeah, we were talking about the waterfall and like, and then I don't remember. We started walking, and I was so tired. I just was exhausted, and because we'd just flown in the morning before, we'd been out till way late. We got up early. We'd been on this bus, and I'm just like, I don't know if how much altitude difference there was, but for whatever reason, I was exhausted, and I just saw this muddy road ahead of me, and I was like, I do not want to walk up to this waterfall. And there was a whole group of guys on dirt bikes, and somehow, I don't know if you knew or if we were talking about different ways to get up there. And somehow I heard that we could rent a boy on a dirt bike. And I was like,
dirt bike boy.
Because they look like kids. They look like kids, 17, 18-year-old kids, And I was like, I want this one. And I said, it said something about, I was like, I want somebody that's a good driver and a sturdy bike. And they all talked amongst each other. They were like, this girl's got a fat ass. Let's see who's going to take her up that mountain. And the one boy was like, I will take you. And I was like, okay. And then you tell about yours, because you kind of had a waiver about whether
gosh, I don't like motorcycles. I don't trust motorcycles. And plus it's on a mountain, and I hadn't even seen the drop off or anything at that point. I mean, I say mountain, it was, we're from Dallas. So, I mean, we live in Dallas, a mountain is relative, but it was a little scary. And then to think that it was muddy, first of all, it was a dirt road. It wasn't paved.
That's why I wasn't going to walk it. I was like, I'm not walking this muddy dirt road.
I'm going to fall. If I walk, I'm sturdy, but on a bike, and this guy, I don't know how well he drives, and these are kids or crazy drivers. I don't know how far it is. Like they had said it was only like a mile or half a mile, so I don't think it was, by the way.
It was longer than that.
I think it was a little bit longer than that. Yeah. Yeah. But I remember when I got on the back of this bike, and I told the guy, and I didn't want to grab him, so I just grabbed the back of the seat, and I just told him, I said, don't let me die. Just don't let me die. And he was laughing at me.
Did he let you hold on to the back of the seat?
Yeah, there was like a handlebar, like a handle back there.
My guy made me wrap my arms around him, and then he grabbed my hands and made me wrap them tight.
Oh my gosh.
And well, probably because I have a different weight thing than you do. Maybe, I don't know. But I didn't want to hold him tight either, because I'm like, I don't know you. I don't want to do anything inappropriate and everything. But he was like, hold on.
Yeah.
And but I do remember telling you at one point, I said, Luz, because you were like wavering about whether you wanted to do this or not. And I said, I love you. I don't want to be horrible on this trip, but I am not walking out that mountain. So if you want to walk, I'm getting on this motorcycle with this guy.
And I wasn't going to let you go by yourself with that guy.
Yeah. But, I actually love it. Like, that is not a fear of mine, as long as they're a good driver. And my guy was such a good driver.
Yeah. My guy was too. I was actually impressed. I mean, he knew exactly where he was going. They do that trip out, forever. Yeah. But he did get a little close to the edge a couple of times, where I could see that it was a little scary.
But that was the only place to go, because it was so muddy. There was like this one solid thing, and you're right. It looked to me about this wide,
right.
And the drop off on the other side was. It was a mountain, even if I am from Dallas. It was a mountain, and it dropped.
It was fun. I mean, it was nerve wracking, but it was fun. And you were ahead of me, I think, the whole way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
And then when we got to the stop, we still had to walk up the waterfall, which was a hike. I mean, this kind of up the mountain. But I told my guy, I said, I want you, because I trusted him then. I was like, I know you're a good driver. I said, I want you to come back and get me and take me down. And he was like,
And
what
then,
time?
me, because I'm always afraid. Like I said, I was always afraid, well, what if they leave us here? Well, what if, I don't know these guys. What if they're, planning? I don't know. Just all these thoughts. And so I remember thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. We'll be here when you come back. We'll
Yeah.
wait for you. We'll wait for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And I thought that was I love adventure. So like, to me, that was like going to the carnival or going to the
It was like a roller coaster.
Like, yeah, I was like, oh my God. And I got to ride dirt bikes and up the mountain and in Minka. So
okay, so then we walked and walked and walked. We didn't know how far it was going to be up to the waterfall.
Oh, yeah.
Climbing and climbing and climbing.
Yeah, and there was like parts of it that
it was very steep. Yeah.
Very steep. So, and then we were in the Minka River then, right, at the base of the waterfall in that pool.
Uh-huh.
That's the river we were in, which was wonderful.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know if it was the Minka River. I'm sure it was.
Okay.
Or a little rivulet that led to the Minka River. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know like the Magdalena River was by our hotel. That was a different one. We were in a different river.
The Magdalena River didn't go through Minka, but it went when we were on the bus. We crossed it. It's huge. The Magdalena is like
I thought
huge river.
Maybe that I don't know why I thought about that river that came by the bottom of the hotel.
It was another little riverlet. It was just another little creek that probably feeds into the.
I thought that was the name of it too. Yeah. Maybe it's the headwaters are up there. I don't know. I have to look again where I saw that because I thought that's why I was talking about the divine feminine and stuff when we got to Minka.
Well, we were very close to it because we did have to between Cartagena and Minka, the Magdalena runs.
Yeah. But yeah, swimming in the waterfall was amazing. Swimming in that pool was amazing.
Mm-hmm. We had it to ourselves for a little bit, for about 20 minutes probably.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody else was there.
And then for whatever reason, like I didn't realize like the idea of whatever wildlife would have been out there was not in the forefront of my mind, that we were actually just swimming in this river in Colombia with whatever snakes or lizards or fish or whatever else were in there. I was like, it didn't cross my mind.
I never thought about that either. Never thought about it. I remember it was cold. I wanted to make sure we kept, we were close to our belongings. We went around. I didn't want to slip on anything.
It was really slippery. I do remember that part.
Yeah. And there wasn't like steps to get in the water. It was kind of tricky to get in and out of that pool, but I mean, it was worth it. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
So
that was a great day. Mm-hmm. And then if walking up was hard, walking down, and I'm walking
down.
Tell
the story. Because and mine are different. First of all, at the base of where you start walking, so we walked up, and then you have to walk down to get to the waterfall, just a little bit down to the bottom of the waterfall. But at the top of that, right before you like make a U-turn, there was a building there. Like I think they had a restaurant and they had maybe probably like a bar. But they also, this was advertised as the largest hammocks in the world. Okay. And so I was really curious, and it wasn't like a hammock like you would think of, like a banana looking thing. It was a flat, like a web, more like just a webbed rectangle, and they had several of them. And so I really wanted to go up there, but to go to the hammocks you had to climb a little harder. There was another waterfall up at the top. Yeah. Like if you walked in a different way, you could go look at the other waterfall. And I was interested in going to look at that. And you said, "Hey, no, I ain't walking no more. I'm gonna head back down. I'm gonna get a head start. You catch up to me." And you waited around for a little bit. So I climbed up to the other waterfall, which was empty. It wasn't as nice of a swimming hole, but the waterfall was nicer. And from there, I looked down and I could see you because you were at where the hammocks were. So I was like about to shout your name so I could take a picture, and you turned around and you left. So I didn't get to take a picture of you there, and I didn't get to say hi. Mm-hmm. On my way back down, it started raining. When I came back down, it started to rain. By that time you were already heading down the mountain. So we're like heading down, but in different places. And then I stopped because I wanted to get in one of those hammocks. So I went in, the guy took a picture of me in the rain, and I'm in the hammock. And that's all I did. I got soaking wet on the hammock. And then I got out too. In the meantime, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's raining. Those rocks are slippery up there. I hope Shayne's okay. I hope she's okay. God, please let her be okay. Because when we were coming up, there's still a drop off. I mean, there was a fence there, but there's still a drop off. And if you slide the wrong way, you're going down the mountain, and you're by yourself, and it's raining.
And if
So
you've ever seen Romancing the Stone,
I have not.
it happens. It happens.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thank goodness, because I would have had even more thoughts. So I was like, please, God, please. I really did pray. I don't pray very often, but I prayed, God, please let her be okay. Let her be okay. So I'm coming up, and I'm walking kind of fast because I want to hurry up and catch up to you. And I finally see you a little bit away from me, and you're walking. I'm like, oh, thank God, she's fine. She's walking. She's good. And I said something to you in Spanish, hey, campesina, or something like that. And you turn around, and I could just tell by the look on your face, you weren't okay.
Had I already fallen at that point? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yes, you had, because the closer I got to you, the wetter you looked. Like your pants were muddy.
Muddy.
I was like, oh no.
My pants were ripped and muddy. And that was the thing. It was the rocks would slide out under me.
Slippery. Yeah.
I had fallen. I think I fell at least 3 times over from the whole thing. But it was just like there was nowhere else to go. I mean,
and there was nothing to grab onto.
There was nothing to grab onto. There was no shelter. There was no side of the road. There was no. It just might as well keep walking. I was just like, and basically, I think I turned around to make sure that I wasn't in somebody's way, because I knew I was like staring at my feet, like, where am I going to put my foot the next step? And I mean, to say that I am top heavy, I'm bottom heavy, but I am also top heavy. So my balance and coming down a hill like this is not great. Gosh, and when it's already muddy, and then it's pouring, and it's not just raining, it is pouring down rain. Mm-hmm. So by the time I came around the corner where the motorcycles were, I looked like I was a mud baby. I just then you probably was like, oh, I don't want that mud baby on my dirt bike. And I'm like, that's why they're called dirt bikes.
They stand for ripped. But just a little bit ripped, but significant.
Oh yeah, my pants were ripped. Yeah, definitely. And that was the thing about it too, is like because once I got back to the hotel, like, I was filthy. Like, I felt really bad even like walking in the lobby and going to our room, but I didn't have a choice. Yeah. And I just walked in and took off my clothes and threw them in the trash. I think I did I walked into the shower with my clothes on. And then I thought, oh shit, I've just stopped up the shower with all this mud. Yeah. And so then I quit trying to do that and just took my clothes off and threw them in the trash.
Okay, and in the meantime, when we were on the motorcycle the first way going up, I was looking around and I fell in love with that place. It was so like, there was crickets and all these sounds of all these creatures, and everything was green, so green. Mm-hmm. And in some places there was like an opening and you could see the hills and stuff on the background, and it was just so beautiful. And I thought, I'm not going to take a motorbike back down. I want to walk it. I want to walk this. I want to be a part of it. But I knew it was kind of long. So I had asked the guy, I don't know, we had been talking about I don't even know if it was that driver or somebody else. They told me about this place. It was called like the window to heaven, or the doorway to something like a magical a meditation place. And they told me kind of where the place was, and you had to walk up this thing, and you would go up to the top of the other side. There was like a creek, go to the other side. And that was where people would go to meditate. And I was like, I want to go there. That's what I want to do. So I asked the motorcycle driver to drop me off at that place. They knew where it was, and said, just drop me off there, and then I'll walk the rest of the way back into town. So we did that. They dropped me off at that place. They showed me where the little entrance of the gate, nothing was marked. I don't even think there was a sign. And I had to walk down. So you left. I took a video of you saying goodbye, go with God.
Vaya con Dios.
I was we're close enough to town that I felt safe enough to let you go. And then I went down, and at that point it was, I don't know what time it was, but it gets dark early there. And so it wasn't starting to get dark, but I could tell that it would be soon, but I thought I had enough time. So I went down. Of course, it's a dense, like a rainforest type of environment. So it gets darker the further you go down. Then there's a creek. and it was a pretty big creek, and they had this bridge across it, and it was made with bamboos. It was like two big bamboo sticks or whatever, poles, and it was covered with bags of sand on either side, just a bunch of bags of sand to hold it in place. So I had to, on my own, gather up the courage to climb that thing, because I was thinking, if I fall, and there's rocks at the bottom because there wasn't a lot of water, but there was rocks there. If I fall, I'm gonna break, so I'm gonna get injured. It was pretty high off the ground, and nobody's gonna be here to help me. I'm gonna have to wait for a long time. But I did it. I went very nervously, went to the other side, and I could see there was like steps carved into the hill, and you could go up, and there was a clearing way up at the top. So at this point, I'm hesitating. With every step, I'm hesitating more and more, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get there. That's my goal. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to that meditation spot. I'm going to do it. But it's also getting really dark down there, because I'm way at the bottom. It's covered up, it's very dark. And so then I start thinking, just 10 years ago, this was like Colombian drug lord land.
But they had a meditation spot, so it couldn't be all bad.
Also, then I start thinking about the creatures. I'm like, my mom always told me, like, it's ahora de los venados, is when everything comes out, like the snakes and the deer, but also whoever's hunting the deer. Like, what if there's a jaguar? What if there's, a snake? Or so all these thoughts are now slowly like taking hold of me. And I'm not even halfway, maybe a third of the way up the steps. And then I hear my daughter's voices, because my daughters, they know how I am when we're hiking and I see a little path that goes somewhere. I'm going to go explore. And they're like, Mommy, no, come on, just stay on the path. Just follow the rules. Just, stay here. I'm like, no, I'm just going to go see what's over there. But I remember, I just heard him talking to me, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I go up there and something happens to me, like, I'm going to feel so stupid. I don't have my passport with me. I don't have any identification. Nobody knows who I am. I'm going to feel so stupid. I'll be dead, but right before I die, I'm going to feel so stupid. And just the thought of my daughters being disappointed in me. And I thought to myself, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, because I'm feeling nervous, and it's just not worth it. So I went all the way back down the hill. I had to go across the bamboo bridge, and I had to go back up the hill to the regular path. And by the time I got to the road, it was light again, because there wasn't as many trees there, so I felt better. Then I'm walking back to the town, and to me, of the whole trip that we took, we had so many magical adventures, and we had so much fun. But that little walk from that meditation place back to the town was my favorite, by far, just my favorite experience, because it was so, I felt one. And there was these huge bamboos I had never seen. I didn't know how big bamboo got, and it was just like a building size of bamboo, just huge. There were multiples of those. And at one point I was just looking at them, I was taking some pictures, and I hear this like sound above me, like people walking or like steps or something. And I look up, and there's a cow looking straight at me. So there's like a trail. That's how steep this mountain was. So I'm like here, walking, and there's the side of the mountain here, and there's a side right here. So I look straight up, and there's a row of cows. There's just a trail of cows walking, and they're just looking at me and then just munching on their grass or whatever. And then I kept walking, and I made it all the way into town.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too that we talked about when we travel, is like when we were traveling together, is that we're okay if each other takes alone time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's cool about the traveling. And why did I not know until just now that there was jaguars?
I'm assuming they were jaguars. I don't know.
Now I'm sad that I didn't see a jaguar.
Hey, but that is an important point to make, because before we left, I remember talking to, because you're very extrovert and I'm very introvert. Mm-hmm. Although we can do both. We can go the other way if we need to, but our energy is different. So I told you I need to have at some point some alone time just to re-energize. Yeah.
Yeah. And I told you I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. But you kind of worried about me, like what I have, and I'm like, trust me, I will be okay. I'm good at this. I can do it. And then I will say though that by the time I threw my clothes away and got showered and reoriented and redressed and like my wits about me, because I skinned my knees, like it was like trying to make sure I was okay, and I had bruises like already coming up.
I know.
I got beat up by the road a little bit, but then I thought, there's been enough time for Luz to get here. She's not here. And I was already implementing my search and rescue plan. So
it was getting darker.
That long. I would have found you. And then that night we walked around the town a lot again and ended up at that restaurant, and where he was like engineering student was our waiter, and he was practicing his English with a speech by Herman Munster.
That's right. He memorized it.
He memorized, and it was so good. And he was like, can I practice my English on y'all?
He was so excited.
Yeah, and it was just such a heartfelt speech. Like, I need to Google it, but it was like a Herman Munster speech, but it had so much pathos or ethos or whatever the thoses is. Like, it was just like, it made you want to stand up and sing, like, believe in humanity. It was good. It was good.
We should have researched it to put on here. So tell another story and then I'll find it real quick.
Do what?
Tell another story and I'll find it real quick.
Oh, the speech? Okay.
What did we eat that day? Why did we end up back at that restaurant?
Well, we walked to a lot of places, and like somebody was closed and somebody didn't have anything. And like, I don't know, neither one of us could really figure out what we wanted to eat that night. And then I don't know why we landed on that place, but it was like the third place we'd gone to.
Yeah, I think I remember, let's see, I think you wanted fish. We were looking for fish to eat, but people there, I guess, only had it for lunch and not so much for dinner. So we had a hard time finding it. We went back to the original place, but I don't know that they had fish. They might have had.
Yeah, because there was like the place that we went to for lunch, like the lunch included other things, but the soup was like what I ate. And then like, there was a lot, it was heavier meats and stuff, and I didn't want to eat. That's what I didn't want to eat. So.
Yeah, but that restaurant was excellent too. They also had some kind of juice that we had.
Oh, that's right. We did. We had some kind of.
Okay, so I found the speech.
Okay. Do you want to read it?
This is from Herman to his son. I don't remember what the context is, but it says, the lesson I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. You could be tall or short or fat or thin or ugly or handsome like your father. Or you can be black or yellow or white. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character. Are you crying?
I'm fixing to.
Yeah, I cried there. When we were at the restaurant and I heard him say that, I cried. Because it was so unexpected, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that would be the speech that he would learn. And that was like a sitcom kind of.
Something so silly, and then it was so powerful.
Yeah, but it was a powerful thing. And to hear him say it, and he did it so well. Yeah.
Which, he listened to it a bunch of times to get it down just right.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I will say that I am uber grateful is because definitely like Minka, okay, it was a tourist town, but not tourists like me. There was like eco tourists or whatever, like, extreme tourists or whatever. Yeah. And people. And so like, me getting to go there, I think was amazing. And so, and just, you facilitating that and everything, just, I could have
anybody going to that town. And it's so, it's not difficult to get to. Like, it feels like a hidden remote place, but it really isn't. It was not difficult.
But it did feel like a wide spot in the road almost, but it was so international at the same time. So many people from all over the place were there.
I remember we went to one place and they said they didn't have Wi-Fi. It said, it was in English. The sign said, "We don't have Wi-Fi, talk to each other." So there's a lot of little places like that, a lot of little messages like that.
Yeah. And so then, anything about that first day? Anything else?
I remember that
second day.
When I was walking back into town, I saw you were looking for a hammock for your daughter's wedding.
For
We
a
were looking for
cake
hammocks.
on
So
the
I had gone into
wedding.
this little shop and I saw some hammocks there, and I went to another shop, which was like a fundraising place. All the proceeds there went to a certain fundraiser for maybe the land or the ecological something or other. And it was a really nice store. They had a lot of really cool little things in it. So we went back that night or the next day.
We went the next day, yeah. And I bought earrings too for me.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so second day in Minka, which was just the morning.
So even before we got to the second day, that evening, I was talking to the owner of the hotel, the one that was from Spain, the Spaniard, and he had asked if we were going to have breakfast in the morning. And I thought, because I don't know, I thought that maybe it was expensive and maybe we wanted to go somewhere, so I didn't really want to eat at a hotel. But he said it's included with the whatever the cost, and it was also like a traditional breakfast. It wasn't like a Spaniard type of thing. And so we went ahead and had breakfast there. But in that conversation with him, he mentioned, because the next day we were leaving, he mentioned, I guess he asked maybe what our plans were. And I said, well, we really want to go to the beach, so we're probably going to stop in Santa Marta and go to the beach. He's like, well, there's another beach right past Santa Marta called
Taganga.
Tagonga, yeah. And he said, and I'm heading there tomorrow. So if you guys want to come with me, like I'm already going to be going there. And I said, well, maybe. I mean, we're going to need a ride back into town. So how much would you charge? He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. You guys are our guests. You know, you guys are practically friends, and it's fine. We'll just take you down. So then I asked you, and you're like, heck yeah. So we got that, a free ride back down to town and a free ride to the beach.
Yes, and that's another thing that I will say that I loved about traveling with you is that yes, there's a time and a place that's not appropriate, but then there's a time and a place where that is very appropriate.
Well,
And
and it doesn't just happen. Like it doesn't just happen. Like it wasn't random, because before we had that conversation, we had just been talking, and it wasn't like flirtatious or inappropriate or anything. But his wife worked there, or you know, like they owned the place together. But his wife had been piddling around. We hadn't really talked to her that much. And then he mentioned something about the reason he was going to the beach is he was going to open up another hotel there, and this one was going to go to his wife because they were getting divorced and they were kind of going through an ugly divorce. So I shared my experiences and how divorce can be a good thing, and you know, I'm still friends with my ex, and you know, we had that whole connection about just sharing experiences. So I think it's not just people, you know, it's not just like these guys offered us a ride.
right, that's what I'm saying is
Yeah,
like, and that's what even though you just met this person, like like you have
yeah,
a sense of like it's going to be okay
yeah,
to take a ride into town with this
yeah,
man that you just met. I mean, because there's
exactly.
about it,
Yeah,
even with single women traveling, in a foreign country,
yeah,
there's times that it's okay.
yeah.
So, yeah. So then the next morning, we get up, we have that breakfast. I remember whoever was waiting on us asked if I wanted coffee or hot chocolate, and I was like, both. And
Uh-huh.
like there was like this moment of shock, but also that a little delight. Like she's like, this is a woman who will order
Yeah.
both. And then I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So, and the breakfast was really good. And the
Yeah. Was it
butter was
outdoors?
really good.
The what?
The butter.
Oh, the butter. Yeah. 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 It was good. We had arepas. We had the coffee and the chocolate. I don't remember what else. Eggs, it must have been.
Yeah.
I don't remember what else, because I
Fruit.
remember, and some juice. There was always some juice. But
Yeah.
there was, we were in like a covered part, but it was all outdoors, and there was this beautiful garden with all these flowers, and they had hummingbirds, lots of hummingbirds.
Lots of hummingbirds. And the river was coming down the bottom that you could kind of see, but
You
not,
could go down to it, yeah.
yeah, you could walk down there, but you could kind of see from where we're having
Yeah.
breakfast.
Okay.
Oh, yes, outdoors on the patio. It was amazing.
And they also had a hammock in the front, which I had already been hanging out on the front patio, which was also covered, just hanging out, just reading a book or something on that hammock. We had to wait a while because since they were taking us now, we weren't in control of what time we were going to leave. So he had said maybe 9 o'clock or something. We were ready at 9 o'clock, but they weren't leaving. Do you remember how we had to wait for a little bit?
Yeah, and we went back into town anyway because
Yeah.
we were going to do the shopping,
Yeah.
and I bought the hammock and the earrings, and you bought a T-shirt and
I bought a T-shirt, which I should have worn this week, but I also bought it was a little set of wooden cats, 3 of them. So like, and there were 3 different sizes, so me and my daughters. But it was like the equivalent of maybe $7 American dollars, but with Colombian money, I was like, "Whoa, that's expensive." Until I translated, because we were already on Colombian money, thinking that way.
Yeah, you weren't in your virtual reality anymore. This was
Wasn't Yeah, we
this is
were
where you
already
live now.
yeah.
Yeah, and walking through the town, and we also went and got bread, like
Oh my gosh, I had
bread. Remember
forgotten
how
about
good that
that.
was?
It was a French bakery.
Yes.
Best bakery, yeah.
Yeah, and then we ran across the dog. Do you remember what we named the dog?
I don't remember. He
I
had
have
a whole
it
name.
written down somewhere. And you
Yeah.
were teaching him tricks, how to sit and lay and shake,
He was smart.
using our bread as incentive.
Yeah.
And
And
I was
so people
taking,
were laughing at us.
yes, people were like, and we met the European couple, and that one woman was doing all her traveling completely barefooted.
Oh yeah. Huh.
It was like,
And also that park where we were had a lot of it was like an outdoor gym.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And remember the school kid, like the school was on the hill above us, and they were laughing and playing in the schoolyard, like on recess or something. And they just, their laughter was like echoing through the mountain. So
Yeah.
just having so much fun. And people were looking at us crazy when we were when you were teaching the dog to sit and shake and stuff,
Yeah.
eyeballing us.
Okay.
Really.
That's fine.
Those men, the construction worker men.
I remember. Americans.
And then I remember, like, we come back and get our stuff. The guys we saw that parrot, and that parrot wouldn't say anything to us.
Yeah.
Remember at that place?
Yeah.
And we're fixing to get in the car, and the man tells me, "Your pants are ripped."
This was your last pair of pants, I think, that at least that we took on that little trip.
Yeah, because I just packed really light for Minka.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I'd thrown my other pants away the night before because they were ripped and covered with mud. And yeah, the seat of my pants were torn out, and I had on hot pink underwear.
Thank goodness. I think we had underwear.
And then remember, I was saying, well, Americans always have the reputation of going to foreign countries and showing their ass. And I was like, I've tried so hard not to do it metaphorically that somehow I had to do it literally.
You had to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but we had a conversation about, did we want to try to go shopping and find me another pair of pants? And this is wherein lies the rub. Or did we want to go to the beach? And I am never giving up holiday for shopping. I'm just not going to do it. So I'll wear the seat ripped out of my pants before I'll get a trip to the beach. And I was rewarded with the right answer, but we'll get into that in a moment because we still have to talk about our trip down the mountain.
Mm-hmm. So the trip down the mountain, where we thought it was going to be the two of us and the owner of the hotel, it ended up being three guys. One guy that worked there, and the other one, I don't know where he came from, but they were all making this trip down to this to the beach. So we were packed into that car like sausages. It was a small car.
It was a small car.
Yeah, I was packed into the backseat like a sausage, and
we were like, yeah, clown car kind of thing. Like we were packed in.
Yeah, it was at capacity. But then we started talking. So we're on this little road back down to Santa Marta, and don't even know how this conversation started through you, because I was telling, this is the guy that worked there who was sitting next to me, and I had told him that you were a fan of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and that was one of the reasons, another reason that we were excited about Colombia, and how you were so excited to go, and you wanted to go to the mountain and like see where people actually live, not just in the tourist areas. So that when I mentioned Gabriel Garcia Marquez, we started talking about other literary figures, and the guy was like a super big time reader, and so we had a huge great conversation about all our favorite authors and favorite books, and it was a really great conversation all the way back down to the beach.
And I was trying to get in on it, and you were like, you would say something, then you'd have to translate, and finally you said, it's too complicated, I can't translate anymore. And I got really jealous that I wasn't part of this conversation. But I loved, because the whole goal of, when you were teaching me Spanish was like, I was catching snippets and everything. And so I would catch something and I would sometimes hear an author or a title and I would be familiar with, and then there would be like a phrase or something that I could follow, or a couple of phrases because I knew the text. So I got really excited about that. But overall, yeah, it was a conversation that I knew that I really did want to be a part of. And I was really sad that I didn't understand more Spanish at that point. So,
but you were a part of it. Yeah, you were still a part of it. Plus, you're the one who started the whole conversation.
Yeah. But yeah.
So then they took us. We went back to Santa Marta, and then we went. We drove a little further to. I keep forgetting. What was the name of the beach? Taganga. Yeah. And which we wouldn't have gotten to on our own. I think I would have been too scared to go out there just if it was the two of us. So that was a great beach. It was very secluded. The hotel that or the little place that he was going to buy, or he was going to rent or whatever, was not quite ready yet. So it didn't have running water, but it had a little shady part where we could sit. And there were other little shops around there that we could get beer from.
Yeah, and so I feel like I was completely rewarded by not going shopping for other pants and still walking around with, and I tied your shirt around my waist, so I had a little cover back there. But I feel like I was rewarded for that decision, because my dream beach is a beach that the water gets deep really fast. So like and it's very still. There's not a lot of waves coming in. And it has shade trees on the beach, and there is somebody very close that can put a beer right in your hand.
Yeah.
This beach had everything I'd ever dreamed about, because it was kind of in the bay, and but it did have a really strong current that pulled you out. So like, if you were relaxing, you would almost have to tie yourself in, or you'd go out to the Pacific Ocean. But it had this beautiful, I guess, palm trees or coconut tree. What kind of trees were those?
They did have some palm trees.
Yeah. And then we were in the water playing and splashing and having a good time and everything. And then I came to get out of the water. And as soon as I walked up to where our stuff was and the men were doing their negotiations for the hotel, one of the guys handed me a beer, and I'm like, I am in heaven. It was like, this is it. This is so fabulous.
Oh.
So, and then when we drank our beers, like, I ordered the next round for everybody and bought that next round for everybody. And not the guys that we were with, but the guys that they met, I couldn't understand everything, but you could tell he was kind of shocked and everything. And then our guys started talking to him, and then I heard American Woman. I will buy the next round.
Let her do it. Just let her do it. Don't question it. Because all this time I'm still in the water. I never came out.
Yeah. And we had met that lady that came to swim every afternoon. You were talking to her for a while. That older lady. She must have been a grandma or a great grandma.
Something like that, yeah. She came out to swim. Somebody mentioned that at night they, like the locals stay, or the people who are spending the night stay, and then they go out there and skinny dip.
Yeah.
Is what they said. I don't know if they were lying to me or what. We weren't there that late.
I know. But I really do want to rent a place on that and stay for a summer or winter or something. Like, I am so grateful. Like, I just feel like that was another kind of magical gift that we got, is Taganga Beach. So even though we were there for not more than a couple of hours, probably, just because of
enough to get a little bit of a sunburn, like, or just a little suntan, a little sun. It was hot.
Well, that was why I came in, because I was like,
because it was so strong. Yeah,
it was so strong, and I'm like, we didn't have sunblock or anything, and I said, I will regret it if I stay out here any longer. Although I do want to stay out here for the rest of the day.
Pictures. I was looking at those pictures today, and the water's so clear. I didn't realize it was so clear. It was so beautiful.
And that was, remember, I posted one of the pictures you took of me and had it as my Facebook profile, because I had been going through a rough time several years, and like, I don't know, I knew like in my head, like I was getting back to this joy and bliss, but I don't always feel it.
Yeah.
Like I know it's coming, I know it's still there, but it's kind of shaking, like you're shaking off things that had happened. But there was one picture that you took of me that I could just see pure bliss and joy on my face. And I'm like, she still got it. She still got it down deep in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a great day, a great place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another magical thing.
So magical.
I think we skipped ahead. We did. We skipped 2 questions without me reading them.
What were they?
About coming down from Minka and our experiences at the beach.
We just talked about that.
I know. That's what I said. I didn't read these questions, but we covered them.
Oh, yeah.
And then traveling back to Cartagena.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was not as, it was a different feeling because first of all, we knew we were going back. It was the end of our trip. We were going back toward, home, I guess. And it was a longer trip for some reason. Do you remember that we stopped? It must have been in Santa Marta. We were having dinner, must have been.
Yeah, so we got to Santa Marta and got our tickets, and we had a bit of a wait. And remember, I was starving. I was like, I've got to eat something. And we went, is that what you're talking about, when we went to go get something to eat? Yeah. And we just gotten our food, and you saw that family that needed food.
Well, I noticed the man came over, and I think he was selling candy or something like that. And then I noticed that he had his kids with him too.
Yeah. And I have to say that I was ashamed that I ate more of my food before I was
okay, but here's what happened because
I'm hungry.
Yeah, that's fine. But here's what happened.
I know, but I'm just telling you, like, that was my experience, is like I wasn't that hungry, but it just that part of it, like that realization.
Well, but none of that was planned. The thing is, we were both going to have our lunch. I hadn't thought about anything. I was eating my lunch. I just happened to notice the guy there. I noticed his family. But then the people from the bus came and told us, hey, the bus is leaving early. Because they had told us you have about half an hour. So we were going to go eat, or an hour. And then they came back and said, hey, the bus is leaving like in 5 minutes. So y'all got to get ready or come over here. So at that point, what do? We can't pack our lunch. It was soup, and we can't pack all this stuff. So at that point, I was like, well, I mean, we're not going to throw the food away. Maybe they want it. And so that's when they came over. So, I mean, I would have eaten a lot too. I thought we had more time.
Yeah. And then the reason that the trip was longer on the way back, do you remember the AC was broke on the air?
Yeah, we had to stop.
We had to stop on the bus. Yeah.
Right. I had forgotten that.
Mm-hmm. And so like that first part was so hot and so humid, and because the windows really didn't open,
right,
and kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just also remember that the longer the day went, the bigger the hole in the back of my pants.
That's right. This whole time you're writing with a hole.
Yeah. As the day went on, that tear that was already big enough to show my wide ass in my hot pink panties just got, like, it was almost all the way down into my knees by the time I got back to Cartagena.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so we had that happened. So that was why our trip was longer, is because we had that.
We had to wait for the other one.
Mm-hmm. So what were your experiences and emotions the last evening in Cartagena?
I have one regret from this trip, and that was that I didn't do my research enough to know that the place where we rented, which was a great place, it's called La Torre del Reloj, which is the clock tower, okay, which is a very famous landmark in Cartagena, and our hotel was right around there, in the same thing that you could go up. There was a terrace up at the top.
Yes.
Or you could go up there and we could have had dinner, or we could have at least had drinks, or just to look at the lights. I didn't realize that it was there, and it was open to the public, and I think it was even free to go in. I don't know, but when I finally realized we could do that, by that time we had already gotten, I think we ate pizza, or
Yeah, but they remember we went and they wouldn't let us in.
Because we had food. So you had to go up and buy food there. But if you already had food, you couldn't go in. And then they're like, and then so I was frustrated because I really wanted to go. And we asked the pizza place, hey, is there a way to go up
Yeah.
from here? And they said yes. So we went ahead and ordered the pizza. I think it was pizza we got, right?
Rolla, I don't know what
But
we got.
anyway, we got somewhere there. That
It
was
was
where you
not,
paid the
yeah,
principal.
it was not
It was,
Colombian
yeah.
food. It was, yeah.
It was kind of like a fast foodie place, but they had a second story. Like they had a little, I don't know, you could go up to the second, like a little alcove up there, but it wasn't the terrace that we wanted to go to. So they were misleading. I
Yeah.
guess we got bamboozled.
That's what it's like to get bamboozled.
Yeah.
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 Well,
So
that,
then when we realized that, we went around and
yeah,
they said, no, you can't take food.
that was kind of, it's interesting because I think I used the word regret when I wrote about my experience too, is because I kept, I feel like I regret that I wasn't satisfied with all of this wonder and magic that we had gotten. And I just wanted more and I wanted
Yeah.
more and I wanted, the last great meal and I wanted the last great view and I really wish that I would have been at a place of more satisfaction and just sat with Colombia kind of and been okay with,
Yeah. You're right, because
instead of,
it was our last little few hours and we wanted to pack the most that we could and then we didn't want to leave, we just wanted to pack the most. For me, I remember that there were these little street vendors and they were selling Gabriel Garcia Marquez books and I thought, well, that'd be cool to buy like 100 Years of Solitude there from Cartagena. So I went to look at it and the book was wrapped in plastic wrap and they were giving me a decent price on it and I looked and it was like an abridged, like a kid version, but it was wrapped in plastic. So I was like, they're not taking advantage of me. I'm not going to buy this book. You're going to get it at half price at home.
yeah.
And then the other thing that I wanted to get these little candies for my family. So the place where we were at were right where all the candies were sold. So I did get a lot of those. And then that morning, which was when I got the candy, on my way back to the place, which you were up in the room, there was a street vendor and they had cups of fruit. Like they had mango and papaya and I don't remember what else, but I got 3 cups of fruit, I think watermelon. So I'm glad that I think for me, that was the last Colombian thing I did was get that fruit for us.
Yeah. And I started feeling bad, too, because like the people that had lived in that, the poor sections of town and everything, when we came into the city, like those were the people that were like, would run up to you, to me and start, do you want to buy a watch? Do I want to buy this? Do I want, and like, by the end of that, I was just so frustrated that I was getting angry with them. And I regret that feeling and everything, with that. But, I do remember when we were downstairs, like, I think when we were leaving, there was like a fruit cart vendor guy that was selling, like, you would buy fruit for your home, like from the grocery store kind of thing.
Right.
And I was like, I have never even seen this stuff or heard of this kind of thing. And I wanted to experience it. And so I didn't want to buy a bushel or a big thing of it. And so he was giving me bites of stuff, tastes of all these, the things. And I tried to like pay him. And he was like, no, this is, you're tasting my country. And like, it was, like he was sharing his livelihood with me and sharing his country with me. And it was just like, that was my last impression, was the generosity and the hospitality of treating your guests to the experience your life in, so to speak.
Right.
So, from the city part.
That's funny. Then for both of us, our whole trip ended with fruit.
Yeah. And then we go to the airport though. And I remember when we were getting on the plane, another huge downpour started. And we were going, and like all the employees or whatever had the umbrellas for us to go and everything. And they were apologizing to all the passengers. And I just started laughing and I said, no, I said, this is Colombia is crying so hard that we're leaving. It's like, don't apologize. Colombia's gonna miss us. Like, look how hard it's crying. And the people were like looking at me like, you're nuts.
Oh, that's true.
So,
That's sad.
um, those were my thoughts leaving Cartagena. Those are yours too, Cartagena,
I
Cartagena.
was I was thankful that everything turned out great. I was very thankful that we had such a great, fantastic, beautiful trip. Just perfect. Just everything was it just turned out great. And we packed so much into those 3 days.
Yes.
Like we packed a lifetime into those 3 days. It was so fun. And all the people we met and all the food we ate and just all the experiences that we had. We didn't get to dance on the street, which was sad.
Go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and didn't they tell us that they were fixing to have a festival or just had a festival?
They're probably always partying, yeah. I
Yeah,
was surprised, honestly. I was surprised that we didn't find a place to dance there.
yeah. But that was probably, the scene from the movie was some kind of festival.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so how did this trip change you?
For me, like I think that it did when I came back. Well, of course, we went through Miami again. We spent this time we did stay at a hotel, but when I finally came back, it was on a Friday, and I remember that the girls were leaving for Colorado with their dad, and he had said they were going to leave maybe I don't know, like at 2 in the afternoon, and we got here. My cousin Liz picked me up from the airport, but by the time I got to home, it was maybe 10 in the morning, something like that. It was early, but they had decided to leave early. So I got home and they literally were just waiting for me to say hi, give them a hug, and then they left. And I was like, oh my God, like it hurt me so bad that I didn't get to spend a couple hours with them or just something here. I've been gone all this time. I have all these things to say. On the plane, I have this thing where when the girls go on a trip or when I go on a trip, I write them a letter so they have a letter to open every day we're apart. So I hadn't had a chance to write anything. So on the plane, I scribbled down, I wrote down some letters for them, but I wrote down all of our things that we did so I wouldn't forget. And so it was like a double, what do you call it? Two birds with one stone. I'm writing down our experiences, but they're also letters for the girls so they could read them on their way. So all I had time to do was hand them the letters, and then they took off. And I was so like sad. All of a sudden, that was my first emotion coming back. And you know how when we got to Colombia, it didn't feel like we were in Colombia. It felt like we were here. It felt like we were still in America to me. When we came back from Colombia, it felt like we were still in Colombia. Like I was still there. I wasn't here. I wasn't in America. Like all that stuff travels. It takes you a while to like arrive. And I had just gotten here. So the girls left, but I don't know what happened, but their dad said that something happened. They were at a gas station. Maybe they forgot something, or for some reason he called me, and so I got to go to them. And while they had an RV, and the girls were driving my car. And so or the other car, when I got to them, I got to spend like 10 minutes with them in the car, just bonding with them, just talking to them, and that made all the difference because at least I was able to spend a little bit of time with them before they went on this trip, and I knew they were going to be okay and they were fine. And I went back home, and then for the next 2 or 3 days I had the house to myself. And like I said, it just took me all that time to come back to America. It felt like Colombia came with me, but like I hadn't left it. It came back with me. Such a peaceful feeling.
Yeah.
How did it change you?
Well, I looked about what I wrote, and I wrote the story about the man when the hospitality is kind of thing is the impact that it made on me. So I thought, well, what else could I say? And I feel like sometimes it becomes like ticks on a box, like a checklist kind of thing where, oh, have you been to this country? Have you been to that country?
Yeah.
Or everything. But for me, in the way that I like to travel, it's like more of, have you met these people? Have you been into a grocery store in this culture? Have you experienced a way of life with this people? And that's how I like to travel. That's what I like to do. I want the people are the more important to me than the place.
Right.
And it's just, to me, I don't, I mean, it's not that I don't expect it or whatever, but just the thing that I see and experience is the hospitality everywhere I go, and just how loving people are and how kind they are and how generous that they are and how proud they are of their um their home.
Yeah.
I remember, and it was maybe the year before that we went to Colombia. So 2 years ago,
Mhm.
I had gone to Alaska, and I went. Well, I was there for a part of the time by myself,
Right.
and I ended up, the last place I was in Fairbanks, and a friend of mine called her sisters, and I came in on the train, and they met me there, and I was like gonna go to a hotel, and they're like, no, you're staying with us. And like, I was stayed with this woman that I'd never met, but who I was friends with her sister. So, and then she was like, just, I'm gonna take you. And like, I felt this all the way around Alaska too, is like, you've come all this way, and not on a cruise ship or a tour or whatever. We're going to reciprocate by showing you who we are, and that kind of thing. And I just felt that again in Colombia. And I think every place I go that I experience that depth of hospitality and that generosity and just that open acceptance, it just, I don't know, it just fills me up a little bit more. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it
I'm
became
proud
another
of I'm proud of them. Your little tick.
it became another little tick. Oh, here's another place in the world that people are kind and generous and hospitable and very proud of their home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that made me very happy that I got to share that with you, and that I was just so proud of my country, of where my family came from, for being able to show you that, for
Hmm.
you being able to see that, because I know that it's there. But if we had had a different experience, you would have come back with a different perception of that. And so I'm glad that you got to see like the reality of that. And for me, like I grew up here, like I'm an American citizen, but I'm an American, and it took me a long time to identify myself as an American. That's not, even though I was an American, I didn't see myself for a long time until I was an adult. I didn't see myself as American, but I'm also Colombian, but I'm not Colombian. So like I hadn't been back in forever, and like I said, I wasn't gonna go see family. So and at the beginning of this whole talk, we were talking about how I was going as a tourist, and I was just going with you, and we were going, it was a different type of trip. But going there, and every time I would start talking to them. Of course, I'm not going to talk to them in English because I speak their language. And they were like, but you're American? And I would say, yeah. And how'd you learn Spanish this way? You have no accent. And I'm like, well, I'm Colombian. My family taught me Spanish. I know Spanish and English. But they were so like, instead of judging me, instead of saying, oh, you're you should be here in Colombia, you went to America, now you're spoiled, and now you're one of them. It was like, oh, you're one of us, you're American, but you're one of us. Everywhere I went, you felt it as a stranger in this country. I felt it as, this is my country. Like, it was just a nice feeling, because I've always felt, and not in a bad way, but I've always felt that I'm neither here nor there, but I'm
Right.
okay where I am. It's kind of like when we go out, and I'm okay to be in the shadows. I like being at the edge of these two worlds. I kind of like having my foot on both sides, or on either side. But going over there just felt like I was completely embraced by them.
Mhm.
The walk that I did near Minca was also that type of feeling. Like the nature even embraced me. The cicadas embraced me. And then I come back here, and it's still America. I'm still feeling embraced. Like, even, like I have two homes, I have two families, and I have two worlds. So that's another way that I was able to accept that.
Well, I think that's beautiful. And I just appreciate you too, and your willingness to take me. To me, that's the biggest boon ever, is to have somebody to that's willing to be your guide in a sense, and show you and help you navigate in a place that um and I don't like I said, I don't know, do you remember if that American guy on the bus spoke Spanish?
He spoke some Spanish.
Oh, okay. Well, and I have such a hard time picking up languages. I don't know what that is about, but I don't feel like I could have navigated that kind of experience by myself.
Yeah, yeah,
And I just appreciate you for your willingness to guide me through that and be there. And help me. So
And I appreciate you, because that was the best graduation present. That was one of the best presents ever in my life. But like, the whole idea of, oh, I want to get you a graduation present. Let's go on a trip. Like that became this, like I can never thank you enough for that experience you gave me. So you gifted that to me. And I mean, I'm glad that you took out of it too.
but the fun part is like if I didn't like here's the trip for you to take, I'm like, here's the trip for you to take with me. So I was like,
It was perfect. It was perfect. There
yeah,
was nobody else that I would have taken this trip with that we would have had the same experience. It would be impossible. It would have been a different trip.
definitely. Yeah. But I will say, like, I don't know how you felt about me, but I love traveling with you. Like
Yeah.
now, I mean, because my daughter and I, who I think are used to travel very well together, like there is this art
Mhm.
and nuance to it. So,
Yeah.
but you do go really, I mean, and it was, I would have loved that trip in a longer period of time.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I loved it the way it was, but I would have
That's all we had. But if we had had 2 weeks or a month, yeah.
and if I would have had like an open end, I would have stayed in Taganga. I would have been like,
I would have stayed in Minka. Oh my gosh.
yeah, well, I would have stayed in Minka longer too, I think. And I would totally have taken that trip to the city, the lost city or whatever that was. Like I would have, that sounds like a magical thing to me.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually think I know somebody who did that
You
now.
did. You told me yours. We've talked about this before. Yeah, somebody did take that trip.
I wasn't connecting it when you mentioned it
Mhm.
earlier, but I think somebody did tell me about that. And they were not prepared. That's yeah. Now that I'm remembering what they told me, that's probably more of a trip than I'm ready for.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get in shape and do it, but not right now. But yeah, I would if I'd have thought long and hard, I might have rebooked my flight and stayed in Taganga
Mhm.
for the summer or something.
Yeah. Can you imagine yeah.
Yeah, I can. And I would
Well,
have
because
tried to
when we came back, I was looking at prices of going back. Like, when can I go back? I want to go back. I want to go back. And now it's more like there are other places that I want to go to also, but I still want to go back. I still want to go back someday.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're also a very wonderful person to travel with. So laid back and open, because when you travel, like some people get really uptight about things, and you're more like go with the flow. I'm I'm not an uptight person. I don't think I am, but traveling, I do get a little bit like just cautious.
Yeah.
So I like to have that balance.
Well, and I learned a long time ago that you are not going to see it all.
Mhm.
So you pick
Yeah.
your number one spot. Everybody gets to pick their number one spot.
Yeah.
And as long as you get to that and that kind of thing, and then open yourself up for
Exactly.
side trips to the beach, and never know what's going to happen or who you're going to meet or some place that you're going to find out about that aren't in the tour books, that that kind of thing. And it doesn't, I mean, I would say it works out 70% of the time. And then sometimes you're going to have that night where you can't find anything good to eat and you can't get to the tourist
Yeah.
terrace or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's going to suck, but
Yeah.
not suck, but not be what you
You're
expected.
going to be a little disappointed. Yeah, that's
A little bit
sometimes for
disappointed.
having expectations, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's on
But,
one for having expectations.
it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And I'm just sitting here for whatever reason, like that night that we watched the sunset from
Uh-huh.
the walls,
Yeah.
and the fort walls and stuff where the string trail, that's the image that I have. I mean, I saw Minka and stuff when we were there, like as we were talking about it and visualizing all these places. But
Yeah.
every time that we're talking about something, that's exactly where my mind goes, is to watch that sunset,
Yeah. Aw.
which was stunning.
Yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful sunset.
Well,
All right.
Luz, thank you so much for letting me record this conversation. And thank you for coming up with these fabulous questions. They were,
Thank you for answering them so thoroughly.
yes, I actually, well, okay, I'm going to say goodbye and I'm going to stop recording. And then, Luz, I still want to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, Shayne, for recording this and for coming up with the idea of talking about this. This is the best way to share this trip with everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.